Welcome to the Speak with People podcast. My name is Jason Raitz. I'll be your host, and this podcast exists to help you improve your communication skills. Whether you communicate one-on-one, to a team, from a stage, or from behind a screen, we know that when we improve our communication skills as leaders, it exponentially changes everything. It improves our relationships, it improves our leadership skills, and it improves our business skills. So let's get ready to dive into this next episode. Welcome to the Speak with People podcast. My name is Jason Raitz. I'm so glad that you are joining us today. We believe that healthy communication is oxygen for your relationships and your leadership. And we hope that you will speak with people, because when you do, you really do breathe oxygen into them and you lift those relationships up. Well, today I'm so excited because we are diving into an important topic on the Speak with People podcast. We are talking about self-awareness and how important self-awareness is to your communication and your leadership. How self-aware are you? Have you ever worked on being self-aware? And so we're going to dive into this amazing conversation with a great leader. Gerardo shares his wealth of experience and insights on self-awareness, and we're going to really unlock the power of it, because it's just so important as a leader to be able to explore it. And so I'm so excited to have an international leadership coach on the podcast. And so would love to welcome our guest, Gerardo. Thank you so much for being on the Speak with People podcast.
Hi, Jason. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely.
And hello, everyone.
I'm so excited that you are here, and you're calling from, we're online right now from Switzerland. I just love modern technology.
Yes, from Switzerland.
It's incredible. Well, hey, so for our listeners to get to know you more, could you tell us a little bit more about you, what you do, your story, what has kind of led you up to this point?
Well, I'm actually one of those guys who has walked a path that did not really so much belong to him. And that's because of facts in life. I was born in Italy and grew up in Italy, and unfortunately lost my dad when I was 6 and my mom when I was 15.
Ooh.
And I grew up with my brother, my 2 years older than me. And maybe because this hard youth I had, I kind of wanted to become a successful entrepreneur. Well, entrepreneur was in my blood because my dad was an entrepreneur. But really, there's nothing wrong with becoming a successful entrepreneur. It's just that the definition of success at that time to me was very much, more of an outcome, if you want. So a lot of people, lots of offices, lots of money, lots of this and that. Okay. So when I grew up in Italy. I went to study a year at university in France, and I kind of fell in love with the international tax. That was my initial background. So I became an international tax lawyer, moved to London, worked for some of the big firms. And at the age of 29, I left and I set up my own business. It was myself and an assistant in a small service office in London. And this group with the time became a 400 people operation with 10 offices around the world, multi-family office. So, yes, international tax, but also asset management, legal, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then in the year 2016, I kind of felt that I did what I had to do. And I actually wanted to become a successful entrepreneur. I became a successful entrepreneur. And, I was, just sitting there and said, okay, I've done, what's next, And it was hard for me to actually find an answer to that question, what's next? I had a feeling I wanted something with more human content, and maybe also something that I could, have a broader impact.
Mm.
And and so somehow, bottom line, I actually found out that the first half of my career was walking a path that was not the path that was created for me.
Mm.
And therefore, what has happened is that I moved uh, to a different path, uh, which is the current one. And that is and feels like a path that was made for me.
Wow. Wow. My goodness. Well, it's amazing to hear just how you've been able to explore and experience so many different areas of leadership, and then obviously what you and your brother had to deal with as young children is so incredibly difficult. And so if we had 2 or 3 hours in the podcast, boy, I'd love to dive into just that story, because that's so incredible what you've had to do. So just as we kind of begin this conversation, what kind of led you, because you've been in lots of roles of team leadership, you've led organizations, you've been part of teams, and then you have kind of launched out on your own. You're doing leadership coaching. So what kind of led you, to want to, work in that area, and what kind of inspired, some of this intersection when it comes to self-awareness and leadership?
I think that what was key, obviously, this transformation, this move from
Mm-hmm.
being a CEO, chairman in in the family office industry and moving on to coaching was an opportunity for me to um to look inside myself.
Mm.
And I actually understood and realized that real objectives as a person, but in particular also as a leader, are very much inner more than outcomes.
Mm.
I think often we get confused and setting ourselves objectives that are not real objectives, but they are simply consequences of reaching something else.
Mm.
And the most important, I think, are inner objectives that we set. So that has realizing that has actually led me to um, you know uh, brought me closer to self-awareness, if you want.
Mm. Mm.
Inner objectives require inner journey. Inner journey is somehow the essence. This is how you build self-awareness.
Oh, wow. Wow. Is it we talk a lot on this podcast about the different generations. In your opinion, the younger leaders, is it harder for them to experience some self-awareness because maybe they just don't have the experience or the wisdom or the life yet? Or, does age not matter? If you're able to, as you talk about those inner objectives, if you're able to figure those out, you know, um, talk to us more about that, the path towards that.
Well, I think the sooner you do it, the better it is.
Mm.
So I think somehow the younger generation are in a similar position. And the reason is that the education system doesn't really take you to, it doesn't really stimulate self-awareness. Instead, it does the opposite.
Mm.
It takes you more, the word somehow takes you more, education, but also now, lots of information are accessible. And whatever the world that we live in really stimulates you to outside and not really so much inside.
Mm.
But the more it stimulates you, the more there is a need for you to actually take a moment and step inside. I think ideally this should be part of an education, but nowadays it's not so much. And therefore, there is a need at some point to do that. And, in my case, it was because of somehow a transformation and move to a completely different profession. But, some other cases might be events. Some other cases, people decide somehow because they feel unhappy, they feel no meaning in what they do, they just stop and, take this inner journey and become closer to self-awareness.
Wow. Wow. So what are some of the key experiences that a leader will go through that will help trigger, some of the self-awareness growth, or, help them kind of, take it a little bit more seriously? Is there anything that leaders need to look out for? Or is it just something that, they study about or learn? What are some of those moments?
I think that, uh, well, there are cases where you have external events that somehow affects and
Mm,
therefore take you, if you want, to closer to self-awareness. So
mm,
take you closer to wanting to or feeling the need to have a look at, inside yourself and understand yourself. And uh, on the other hand, I think that, one of the main obstacles is the fact that somehow, you know, people think correctly that you can be a successful entrepreneur without having to do that. And that is somehow correct.
mm,
But, if you decide to go that way, sooner or later, you will be faced with uh, regrets,
mm.
resentments, for feeling that your life was not meaningful. The very latest when you're almost leaving this world. Okay, but it is certain that if you don't become closer to self-awareness and therefore don't look inside yourself
Mm,
and really don't understand um, yourself and become aware of your strengths, weaknesses, values, identity, who you are, who you really are, and what is your path, your meaningful path, then at a certain point in time in your life, that will become in front of your face.
mm.
And
Wow.
that's not a nice feeling to have.
Right. Right.
Right.
Right. For our business owners that are listening, or HR directors, or, kind of the people management people, as they think about their staff teams, and especially with your experience of leading different organizations and now as a coach, are there things that, people in positions of leadership can be doing to help their teams develop more self-awareness? Are there, skills, activities, different things for them to explore? Because I wonder, even in your opinion, I wonder how many companies actually, you know, invest that way in their staff and their team, or, if maybe they don't even think about that.
Well, uh, I think that, first of all, it is an individual job. I mean, it is my decision to do it.
Okay.
Okay. Now, what you can do is, again, one of the obstacle is, it is there's an element of discomfort in doing
Mm,
that. Okay, because if you're looking inside yourself and becoming self-aware of yourself, means becoming self-aware of the nice and self-aware of the less nice. Okay, um, and people don't like discomfort,
hmm,
so they walk away from discomfort. Okay,
right.
so one way to do it is, number one, a gradual approach. Gradually becoming closer to self-awareness. Number two is to actually start building awareness,
Mm,
and then move on to self-awareness. So I give you an example. I mean, one of the way that you build a skill, the awareness skill, is mindfulness.
mm,
Okay, so practicing mindfulness makes you become aware of what's around you.
mm,
You know, noises, colors, nature, things like this build a skill of becoming aware. Becoming aware means, stepping out of whatever and observing, looking, understanding what there is, okay, without judging and without jumping into changing it. Before changing it, awareness is a space of observation. Okay. So if you become aware of what's around you, then you are somehow training that skill, and therefore you can move easily. It's easier to move on to becoming aware of who you are.
Wow. That is so rich and so helpful. Would you say, especially self-aware leaders, are they stronger communicators with teams? Does it give them a leg up on their communication skills because they've done that work of this for their self-awareness?
I think self-awareness put leader in a position to become better at every kind of leadership skill. And the reason, the reason is very simple. Being self-aware means that you're stepping out of yourself. So you're stepping out of your mind, of your emotions, of your thoughts. Okay.
Yep.
And you build capability of understanding what it is. Okay. Understanding your thoughts, your emotions. So you are detaching from those. Okay. It means detaching from yourself. Okay. And that means that the consequence is that you're more if you want you take the self out. Okay. So it is, you're more altruistic, you're more ready to take care of the others, okay, to help the others, to give an example to the others, to be more servant, okay. So you're more selfless, if you want, in a way, because you've sorted out, you know yourself, you've sorted out, you've understood, you have clarity, okay, and therefore you can dedicate your attention to the others. Okay, so typically self-aware leaders have radical positivity. So when they look at things, they look always at the bright side of things. They have radical humanity. So human skills, or what we normally call soft skills, those are particularly strong in self-aware leaders. And they have this amazing clarity that allows them to create magical spaces, such as, identifying win-win scenarios or impossible to possible scenarios. So making possible something that is impossible. And creating this human connection because of that reason, okay? Because they are detaching themselves, and therefore they're able to they give themselves a chance to be their true self. And if you are your true self, you're setting an example, and authenticity, being more authentic, is contagious, and therefore other people will feel that they can be more authentic, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they have a ripple effect.
Yes. Well, it sounds like, I mean, being self-aware is quite the superpower.
Well, even if you're thinking about a future with AI, a friend of mine recently asked ChatGPT what would be the type of intelligences that would be least likely for AI to surpass humans. And the answer from ChatGPT was 5 intelligences. It was bodily kinesthetic intelligence, naturalistic intelligence, existential intelligence, intrapersonal and interpersonal intelligences. Now, the intrapersonal intelligence is self-awareness, the ability to understand oneself. All the other 4 are and have a word awareness in the definition. that ChatGPT is given. So awareness of your body, awareness of nature, awareness of others, and awareness of, your values, who
Mm-hmm.
you are. So
Wow. Wow, that's just absolutely incredible. What advice would you give to hiring managers to, what kind of things can they look for in potential employees to see if they're self-aware leaders? Cuz what a gift to be able to hire some self-aware leaders for your team.
well, I think you know the this what I would suggest is uh, y- to ask questions to potential candidates where you can actually see that they know themselves.
Mm,
Okay, so I think on one end, first of all, to create somehow a safe space for the candidate to open up, because that's very important.
yep.
Somehow, uh, when you go into a meeting, not only from the candidate, but especially from the candidate, there is an element of defense barrier,
Mm,
because of fear.
yep.
You know, so whenever there is a fear, there is defense. And therefore, I think my suggestion would be first create a space where the candidate is actually feel safe to share the truth or
Mm,
their true self, and then going to dig a little bit to understand how much they know themselves, how much they are aware of the strengths, the weaknesses, the values, who they are, what is their path.
wow. Absolutely. So important to be able to do each of those. When it comes to self-awareness, is self-awareness a part of emotional intelligence, or is it two separate parts?
Well, I think it is a part. I mean,
Okay.
emotional intelligence is the ability, the skill to recognize and deal with your own emotions. And it requires that element of detachment. Okay. So it's like, there is yourself and you're detaching from yourself, and you are observing. Okay. So that is that ability to actually observe your emotions. Self awareness is not only emotions, it's everything about you. It's strengths, weaknesses, thoughts, emotions. So all of that, all together.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. Boy, those are great. When you do leadership coaching with someone, with a leader, are there any exercises that you begin with to kind of help them, to tap into that self awareness? Is there any beginning places when you're doing that coaching?
Um, well, there isn't an exercise. I mean, the exercise are the question that I ask, but any coaching, program that you do with a coach is um, will take you inside yourself. I mean, this is the
Mm,
the essence of coaching, because coaching is somehow unleashing your potential and unleashing yourself and making you be your true self, find your way. It's really, it will take you inside yourself, So that's the essence. And, the question will take you, um, whatever is the objective that you set, the coach will take you inside yourself to reach that objective. And therefore, self-awareness is a must, is the least result that you will get by working with a coach is being self-aware of who you are. Okay. And nowadays, any kind of leadership role is very much an inside-out job.
mm.
Okay. Being a leader has become an inside-out job. So it starts from inside and it goes outside, impacting people, impacting companies, organizations, the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you think, one of the things we talk a lot about on the podcast is just, for the first time, we have four generations of people working together: Gen Z and millennials and Gen Xers and boomers, all the different age gaps. As you look at, the people you've worked with and the clients you have, do you think the younger generations in 2023, almost 2024, have a leg up because they've had so much technology, they get information so much quicker, all of that? Or has that hindered them when it comes to their self-awareness and their leadership developing? Or will they be catching up for generations? Or are us older generations, will we not be able to catch up with those younger generations because they're able to deal with the onslaught of information? So, will it rapidly increase their self-awareness?
Uh, no, I don't. I don't think. I mean, I look. Bottom line, we're talking about human beings. Okay,
Mm,
so human beings are human beings. Doesn't really matter the generation, everything. Uh, yes, the way that you might get to certain objectives or certain answers might be different. But at the end of the day, human being is a human being, so it doesn't make a difference. And I was one of the things that I actually do often, and we as leaders uh, do it quite often. Have this kind of harmful defensive behaviors, okay, from shouting in the office, wearing a mask, um, delaying, postponing, ignoring, blaming, all these kind of harmful behaviors of a leader.
mm,
We Everybody has them. We all have them. From a loud discussion in the office to pushing a button to launch a missile. All these come from fears. Okay.
right.
And one of the things that you actually do is that, once you look at the harmful defensive behavior and you ask yourself why, you get to maybe certain fear and you continue to ask yourself why. So that's one of the things that you can actually do to try and understand that often we stop, our attention stops at the very beginning of those fears. Okay.
Mm,
Uh, to give an example that somehow applies to speak with people, communication. When people go and speak in public, okay, they might have certain fears,
mm,
okay, but if you actually dig into those fears, okay, that might not be the ultimate fears,
mm,
okay, and if you take some time and continuously ask yourself, okay, just assume that that is a consequence. That fear that somehow you have identified is a consequence of something else. So ask, why do I fear that? Why do I have that fear? And you build up a kind of pyramid, and you go to the ultimate fears. In my experience, whatever the generation, you're always ending up with four fears that are specifically for a leader.
mm.
No meaning, no meaning in what you do or in your life. Okay. Um, Fear of dependency from something or somebody. Fear of loneliness, being lonely
Mm,
or ending up alone. Fear of uncertainty.
mm.
So those four, wherever you come from, are
Yep.
the ultimate fears. Okay. And behind those are the inner treasure, what I call inner treasures of a leader. So that would be meaning, love, freedom, and certainty.
Oh, wow.
Inner meaning, inner love, inner freedom, inner certainty.
Wow. 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 And I know there's a lot of parents that are listening. Is there anything that, especially parents with young children, is there anything they can do to help instill self-awareness in their children as they, as they're young and as they get older?
Um, I think that the best thing that they could do is to maybe to educate their children to detach themselves from their emotions. Okay.
Mm.
And therefore, the way to, I think the best way to do that is to actually don't judge them.
Mm.
And, it's very difficult. I am myself, the father of two daughters,
Mm.
15 and 13. And when you are when you are a parent, father or a mother, is probably one of the most difficult thing to do that,
Mm.
because there is so much around that. Okay, so much emotional, so much thought, so much, so much of everything. And uh, I think the best would be really mm, to don't jump into judging, don't jump into solving, don't jump into sorting, don't jump, and don't immediately jump. Okay, the first moment is a moment to be aware. Be aware means, okay, this is what it is, this is the thought. Okay, and just think that you are not your mind.
Mm.
You have a mind. You're not your emotions. You have emotions. You're not your thoughts. You have thoughts. Okay, that's crucial. Okay, you have a mind as much as you have an arm, a leg, and so on. Okay, so you are not your mind, your thoughts, your emotions.
Mm.
You have them. Okay, so step outside, look at them, and work it out. And you're giving yourself a chance to say, okay, this is what I want to be. This is what I am. This is what I want, and therefore I go into that direction. And I don't necessarily allow myself to be caught by, this thought or this emotion or this. I just, I appreciate that. I understand where it comes from, and I give myself the chance to be different or to act different.
Wow. 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 That is so good. So rich. I took so many notes. You've provided us just such great wisdom. I can't wait to go back through these. We wrap up the interview and I let you go, we like to ask our guests some kind of rapid fire questions, get to know them a little bit more, but then also, find out some things that are filling them up. Do you have a favorite speaker, just someone who, well, you love listening to, you've just learned a ton from, and every single time you just can't wait to hear them?
I'm afraid the answer to that question is no. And the reason I will tell you why. The reason is very simple. Listening to somebody speaking is a gift that you are receiving. Okay,
Mm.
so to me, listening to somebody who is speaking, who is sharing themselves, who is, giving themselves, to me is a gift. I perceive this as a gift. I
Mm.
might not like the wrapping up paper, but it doesn't matter. It's still a gift.
Mm.
And so the answer to your question is no. And by the way, if I'm looking at yourself, what you are actually doing is a gift full of gifts,
Mm.
you know, because this is what you are doing. You're providing people the possibility to listen to amazing people around. Okay.
Yes.
So I actually thank you for what you're doing.
Oh,
I think it's very useful.
well, thank you very much. Is there a book that you would recommend leaders read, to dive
Oh,
more into
yes.
this?
Oh, yes, there is. I mean, not only of this, but of a lot of other things. The book is The Heart of Business, written by a guy called Hubert Joly. And it's the story. This guy became the CEO of a group called Best Buy, a large US consumer group, about 10 years ago. Best Buy was almost bankrupt
Mm.
because this guy, CEO, placed the human connection at the center of the company at all stakeholders level. So employees, suppliers, shareholders, communities, etc. And the end result is that the stock price multiplied by 11, And the company just became one of the most well-known turnaround in business history, and it's actually taught at business schools. So that the book is quite nice. It explains also very well in detail what the guy has done in the company. So it's very practical also.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. If last question for you, if any of our listeners ever get over to your side of the world, what is one thing that they have to experience?
Well, look, Switzerland is famous for for quite a few things. Chocolate, fantastic. The best chocolate in the world is Swiss chocolate. And second, I'm saying things that I like. Second is skiing. Skiing, is also famous. There's lots of snow around here, so definitely skiing resorts.
I love it.
Very nice.
I love it. Well, where can we send? We'll put it in the show notes. We'll put it in our Facebook group. We'll put it on, as we promote. What website should we send people to find out more about your leadership coaching and what you do?
Well, my website is gerardosegat.com. I'm also on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So linkedin.com/IN/Gerardo Segat.
Perfect. And we'll link all of those so people can go and find out more about what you offer. And I just can't thank you enough. Thank you for your time. Thank you for pouring out such great wisdom. I mean, this has been so incredibly helpful, and I know this will just help many, many leaders. So thank you again.
It's a pleasure, Jen. Thank you for having me and inviting me.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us on another episode of the Speak with People podcast. We hope that you were encouraged. We hope that you were inspired and challenged to improve your communication skills. I want to thank you again for being a part of the Speak with People podcast community. Make sure you don't miss out on being a part of the Speak with People Facebook community group. Just head to Facebook, type in Speak with People, scroll down and join our community, because every single day we're encouraging each other. We're helping each other to improve our communication skills. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next episode.